Hi, Paulsakis, Good News Planet, Pause the World for Peace. I'm here with Dr. Ugoji Eze, Esquire, if I said her name correctly. She's magnificent. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you? Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, we've met now a few times, and I only hear good news coming out of you. And I would need to share it with our audience. You're helping women, you're helping refugees, and you've helped many others for a long time. You're a passionate woman for being a do-gooder. And I'd like to know maybe up front why.
Well, it's part of my heritage, Teku Molam, to heal the world. And I believe it's very important when you see injustices in the world, not to just sit back and be a spectator, but to try and make a difference.
But you're doing events. I mean, you're making a difference. You're not, so, getting involved is one level, but you're like on the top level here. So tell us, right, what events are coming up? How do people get involved with them? And what do they need to do?
But basically, the event that which is really a few months away is actually the Commission on the Status of Women, which starts from the 6th to the 7th of March at the United Nations in New York in 2023. Now, every year it has a different theme. This year, the theme is innovation and technological change in education in the digital age for achieving gender equality and empowerment of women and girls. And I'm fortunate that this year I shall be hosting several events, side events on the margins of the Commission on the Status of Women. Take, for example, I'll be doing one which is aptly entitled Towards Closing the Gender Gap in Science, Innovation and Technology in Developing Countries. We take it for granted, just like I'm now zoomed into you, Paul, that everybody else can zoom in. Now, in developing countries, that's not so. And I particularly remember during the lockdown, when we were fortunate here in the United States, we could continue as we can in our limited space, having meetings by Zoom, but globally, all over the world, some children didn't have access to technology. They weren't fortunate enough to have a laptop. And this is more particularly so as regards refugee children who are in refugee camps. For example, the refugee children in Jordan who are in the refugee camps there, the Syrian refugees, the refugees from Afghanistan, and now the refugees from the Ukraine. We're quite fortunate here in the United States that there's a switch of a click on the switch, light comes on, we turn the tap on, water comes out. And if you want to keep in touch, like I'm with you now, you send me a Zoom link, but that's not so in developing countries, in conflict zones, and also in post-war situations. So basically, one of the topics which I'll be hosting at the United Nations, with the collaboration of the permanent missions of Nigeria, Morocco, Malawi, Botswana to the United Nations, will be emphasizing the need for us to close the gap in science, innovation, and technology in developing countries. So that's about it in a nutshell. One of the events I'll be hosting in New York.
Well, how does somebody get involved with that? And is there a website? And is it possible? The United Nations, is this an open event for the public?
Yes, it will be. I'll have it open because most of my events are open events. We'll send out, it's covered by UN Web TV. And about a week or two before the event, I'm sent a link from the UN, which I can then share it out to people who will register those in the technological age which we are now because of COVID can click on the link and be zoomed in.
Oh, virtually.
Yeah, it can
And
be virtually. It's virtually. It's also live. It's what we call it the UN hybrid event, virtual and live.
and if they wanted to come in live, is that possible too?
Yes, it's absolutely, yeah. They just have to register. Save the date will be sent out. They have to register, then we take their names and tickets will be issued.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is a serious subject. This is a reality uh,
Mm,
of of I've done a bunch of shows over the years with IBM. IBM is one
mm,
of the companies who is very um, corporate minded
mhm.
for women in technology.
Yeah.
It'd be a good sponsor for you because they've walked the talk, they talk the walk, and and that's what it takes. It does take the corporations, international corporations, to get
Mm,
behind and give mentoring, uh, so young women can grow to the greatest opportunity. But isn't it so though? In some of these countries, women already don't have a break. they're they're I'll even say it, second class citizens. Because this is not a good subject. I don't like this subject. I'm a woman's liberator, and isn't that a problem? How do you deal with that, or will that be discussed at an event like yours?
yeah, I'm also women's lib, just like you. I believe in advancement of women, or I think I'm a perfect example of it because I come from a country or a culture where generally it's always the men that are put forward. My late father was Nigerian, but I was born in the United Kingdom. I'm British, but I suppose I wouldn't be here today if not for my father believing in me and pushing me and encouraging me. Because in Nigeria, yeah, women, you put more emphasis on the male child as opposed to the girl child. But my father was opposite way around. He ensured that I had the best education money can buy in London, and he encouraged me to be a lawyer. Yes, you're right. In most societies, in most communities, especially on the African continent, I can speak from my personal experience and also seen, firsthand that women do need to be empowered. There's a need to break down this cultural barriers and this cultural stereotypes, and also there's a need to push a girl child forward. As I say, my father had sons, he had daughters, but for some reason he invested in me more. Maybe he saw my potential. He didn't, I think he was ahead of his time. He didn't think to himself like my uncles were thinking, oh, she's just a girl child, marry them off and that's it. My father didn't think that. He was always pushing me. He was always the one encouraging me. He was the one, if I didn't get good grades on my exam, my father will pick me back up the floor and I'm feeling upset. He'll pay for me to get the best, the best professors to make sure that I pass my exam the next time. So, it's not just it's as it says, it takes a village to train a child. It needs a whole community to be involved to realize the potential of women and not to see women as the least in a community. I, for one, I don't consider myself a second class citizen. I've never done that. I see myself as the first amongst equals. If I'm in a room, I don't have this complex, oh, I'm just a woman. I've never had that complex because
Good.
my father has always made me feel that you can go in there with the men and you can get your message out.
Oh,
Even if it means you rolling your sleeves and taking a punch, you do it.
yeah. I love it. I was fortunate because my mother was, she never would have said who she was a women's liberator. She was a worker. My mother
Mm.
skipped 3 grades in school. My mother got a master's degree in Columbia in the 20s, and
Wow.
she was librarian at Temple Emmanuel.
Mm.
And and she would never, the women that they just worked. A lot of
Mm.
European women worked. It wasn't a matter of liberation. You needed 2 salaries to survive, and it worked. And then, but those countries that really literally are not fair, I'll say,
Mm.
to women. Um, that hopefully will change, and I think it is changing in certain countries. Women are given
Mm.
a little more freedom in some of the Middle Eastern countries. That
Mm.
there's been some concerns, right? Yes, no, I hope so.
Well, I think in the 21st century there has been a tremendous amount of change. I could say so. I mean, yeah, there have been a tremendous amount of change globally. Um, the issue of the empowerment of women is very much at the top of the agenda, and they have. I have seen a lot of change. To be quite honest. You see that women in the boardroom. You see women being decision makers, women in parliament. You know, I mean, when I look back to my early years in London, because obviously I was born in London and I was raised there. I mean, who would have thought in the 60s, 50 years ago, so that you'll see women presidents, you'll see women as parliament. If you take for example in the British House of Commons, we've had three prime ministers, female prime ministers. There are a lot of women MPs. Even here in the United States in Congress, there are a lot of women in Congress who take on a very important role. I personally believe that there has been a lot of change. There have been, yes.
I think she was a successful queen too, right?
Oh, yes, and we had our dear Queen for
Yeah.
70 years.
She did okay.
Yeah, she did a good job. And could you imagine when she was born in 1926, she wasn't supposed to be queen, you know that. You know,
No, but she wasn't
yeah.
supposed to. Why? Who was she born to? Uh, she wasn't born to a family that, you know, would allow that to be as just a result
No,
of
it was
her.
just by accident because her uncle abdicated.
Oh,
Yeah, her uncle abdicated for the love for the woman he loved. So since her father was next in line, he became king, King George VI. When he passed in 1952, Queen Elizabeth, she became queen.
this is good. This is good for me for Jeopardy also. These
Okay.
information. Well, this is what I like to do right now. You and I know we could talk for a long time. And I
Mm,
know the kinds of things we're involved with. You see there World Water Day
hmm
and the International Day of Peace. What you're doing is, in my mind, part of the International Day of Peace, because there is no
mm,
peace when there's strife and there's not equality and there's not freedom. So what you're doing is in our thought process, you're
mm,
doing peace events
mm.
to get everybody on the same page of freedom. So you have upcoming. Why don't you just tell us, and we'll just focus now on this immediate one that's happening. But I just tell us, just briefly. Then you have something happening in Washington, D.C. Is that right?
Oh yes, I'll be doing hosting an event in Washington, D.C. At the Women's National Democratic Club. It will be a high-level congressional discussion on the topic is the protection of the rights of women and girls against cyber harassment and bullying. Now, cyber harassment and bullying, it's comes as I'll say, as a direct consequence of the empowerment of women, because a lot of women politicians and journalists have been harassed online. Also, a lot of girls have been harassed online. There's a high incidence of harassments of children online. A direct result of this is not only to have a discussion. I mean, I'm not one for talking all the time. Is also to have a direct result, how to make changes in the law as regards cyber harassment and bullying. And another aspect which is also related to online harassment, bullying, is also the pressing issue of anti-Semitism and related intolerance. I, for one, believe that with the rise of anti-Semitism, I hosted an event in 2014 at the UN, which is titled Anti-Semitism, a Threat to International Peace and Security. I did remember saying in 2014 that anti-Semitism will come to the United States and the incidence will be quite high. I remember that particular point in time being criticized, but here we are. It's happening because most people thought it was just restricted to Europe. And I remember that particular point in time in 2014, there was a high incidence of anti-Semitism in the United Kingdom. But we're dealing with this issue. And for me, I believe that we need to find a solution. We need to have laws on cyber, this empty space, which a click of a button, you can send a message out there which has tremendous and disastrous consequences. So that's another area, anti-Semitism, combating anti-Semitism, which I've been following at the UN for the past, coming up to 14 years now. There needs to be change, and it's not just here, the United States, it's global.
Yeah, it's problematic, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's global. Yeah.
These are big, big concerns. Okay. Where can people go to, and you're going to get, we're including some text information about what we're talking about. So that'll be part of this interview. Is there a website that you have, or what's the best way to reach out? And please include
the best way to reach out to me. I'll release to you a press release. Then you see my information, and within the next 2 or 3 days, the information will be loaded onto the website, which I'll send to you.
Okay, and well, once again, I'm going to cut and paste whatever you give me. I'm keeping in what we say here right now, and that's good news. Last question, because we've been involved with the International Day of Peace, and I've asked many people, what is peace for them? So, what is peace for you?
Peace for me is a world in which children do not live in refugee camps. Oh. Peace to me is when you don't wake up in the morning and you're suddenly homeless and stateless and you're moving across borders. Now, when you say what does peace means to me, it's personal because I was a refugee. I was a Biafran refugee at the age of 6. So peace means a lot to me.
Wow.
Peace means to me when I don't have to wake up in the morning and I cannot go to school because planes are flying over my school and hitting the school with bombs, despite the fact it has a red cross on it. Good. So peace means to me a world where a child does not have to move across borders, or a child does not have to seek refuge.
Thank you very much, and all the best. We're here for you for however we can be helpful. You can count on us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.